And hello again, Mountaineer Nation. We welcome you to Mountaineer Field upstairs here in the network television booth as we prepare you for Neal Brown's weekly address to the media, as it is game 2 of this 5-week stretch that West Virginia will be just trudging through here. It will take us cross-country to Lubbock and West Texas to take on the Red Raiders as the Mountaineers come into this 5th game of the season, Wolf, with a 3-1 record and 2-1 in Big 12 play. Just a most impressive performance against Kansas, particularly in the second half, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, which now West Virginia has the top-ranked defense in the entire United States of America at just 240 yards per game. They have been absolutely lights out, putting the clamps down on opponents, not only in the run game, but the pass game as well. All of the metrics are really just grading out in a tip-top shape, and who would have thunk it that West Virginia, coming out of the Big 12, is harkening back to their 1996 defense, which is a historically good WVU defense. So we're looking forward to hearing about that with Neal Brown. I'm sure he'll be asked plenty, and also getting a peek at the Red Raiders, who are coming in on a 3-game losing streak as well, but still very formidable.
Well, Danny, I think it says a lot about the defense when you're starting to measure up against Steve Dunlap, the old defensive coordinator, the guy that recruited me. That's how far back he goes back and how long he's been around. He just got put in the Hall of Fame last year as well, by the way. But, the defense really performed well. 3 layers, Danny. The D-line, linebackers, and secondary, all playing together, all generating. And there are 11 players that are playing really well, but there's also at least 3 or 4 players that are playing at an elite level, Danny. And I guess we'll get into that during the show and all this week as we go ahead and prepare for this. But big challenge going into Lubbock. The Red Raiders, man, I'll tell you what, it's tough to win there, although the Mountaineers have been successful.
Yeah, West Virginia is 6-3 all-time against Texas Tech. Jared Daggy gets to return home, if you will, the Lubbock native, so I'm sure he's going to be juiced up for this one. We will chat with his quarterback coach, Coach Reagan, coming up after we hear from Neal Brown, his press conference in its entirety, and also one of the key cogs of that WVU defensive line, Jeffrey Pooler, is stopping by the show as well for exclusive one-on-one interviews. We do remind you, by the way, earlier this morning, tickets for the remaining 3 home games for WVU football games did go on sale at 9 a.m. So be sure to log on to WVUsports.com for more details on how you can have an opportunity to get some of those. All right, stand by. We'll hear from Neal Brown. He'll step to the podium in just a little while. With the Wolfman, I'm Dan Zangrilli. Coverage of the Neal Brown press conference show presented by our sponsor, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration. He's going to talk a lot about, I'm sure, Letty Brown, who was terrific in the run game. West Virginia, of course, and Kansas, the only Big 12 game of the week this past weekend. So Letty Brown takes home Offensive Player of the Week honors. Josh Chandler-Samito takes home the Defensive Player of the Week honors. And freshman Hakeem Mesidor, who has been unbelievable, registering back-to-back sacks. He has how many of those, Wolf?
4. That's
4 of those? Yes.
Total.
And he's been an unstoppable force, newcomer of the week. I don't know who I'm more excited about on this West Virginia defense, quite frankly. I had Mesidor as my pick to perform on the radio pregame show, and if I could pat myself on the back there.
I'll do it for you, Dad.
Yeah, I think, didn't you have Chandler-Samito? So so you could do that as well.
Goodness.
I mean, you cannot go wrong with anybody. You can pull the name out of a hat. They've been that good.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back to bad Letty Brown. 195 rushing yards, 2 total TDs. But he's not the only Brown that's bad in town, because Mike Brown, the senior right guard, has been playing lights out. And if you go back and look at it, it was big Mike Brown making the big blocks to release that 87-yard play. Ooh. Check it out. You can see it in the Wolf's Den as well this week. Okay. There's my plug.
Yeah, there he is.
Okay.
That 87-yard run from scrimmage, by the way, was the longest since Noel Devine back in 2009, which just gives you an idea of the rarity of those type of plays and what it takes to execute something like we see where Letty Brown just shoots out of a cannon untouched and has an automatic touchdown before he even hits the midfield stripe. All right, a couple of storylines going into Texas Tech. They get their Week 1 non-conference victory. They take Texas to overtime. They lose to Kansas State. They lose to Iowa State. So they're going to be a hungry bunch. Matt Wells is in his second year for the Red Raiders. We're expecting, I think, a little more offense than what we have seen, at least in 3 of the 4 games. They put up plenty against the Longhorns, mind you. But what do we have going into Lubbock? What are we up against?
Well, you have the Matt Wells type of Texas Tech team, and it actually extends on from the previous coaching staff there as well. But what I see there is, I think they're really going to try, Danny, to take away the defensive line. Okay, in the rush, obviously the defensive line is 4th in the country in sacks. Put on that pressure, so I think you're going to see what really is part of their game. But you're going to see a lot of screens, a lot of quick passes, slants. Get the ball out of the quarterback's hands, because you don't want Darius Stills and the rest of the company coming in down on you. And I think you're going to see that. So, defensively, I think that they're really going to be challenged this week. So, great job so far, defense. But now here comes the passing game.
Okay. All right. We look forward to hearing about all of the important keys to victory from Neal Brown. Plus, he'll recap, of course, everything that occurred in that 38-17 WVU winner over Kansas here at home on Saturday afternoon. Stand by. We will hear from the head coach of the Mountaineers when we return. The Neal Brown Press Conference Show, all presented by our friends at Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration, the official cleaning and restoration company of the Mountaineers.
When the unexpected happens.
Hi, Coach. Good afternoon. If you just want to start us off with some opening thoughts.
Yep. Thank you all for being on here. Good afternoon. Good Big 12 win on Saturday. As you know, gets us to 3-1 overall and 2-1 in the Big 12, and that's what matters right now. I thought we showed real growth on Saturday. Overcame a very poor start to pull away with a convincing win. Things went probably about as bad as they could early on in that game, and proud of how our staff and players really handled the adversity in the first quarter and played through it, made adjustments. Not sure we would have reacted that way a year ago. Probably the Texas Tech game from a year ago is a good example of that. And enjoyed having fans back at Mountaineer Field. Look forward to getting back home to them again on Halloween. Glad that's a noon kickoff as well. Quick recap of the game. Special teams, just disappointed in how we played. I thought Kansas outplayed us in special teams. We had 3 penalties, kickoff return for a touchdown. We're not punting the ball with enough distance. Kickoff return, we had to start a drive because of a penalty on the 6-yard line. Our punt return, I really felt like we should have blocked 2 punts in that game. Got 2 penalties on that unit, which is uncalled for. And then the last touchdown, our kickoff cover, I don't know if of the 11 guys out there, I don't think we had one guy do what they were supposed to do. We had all backups in there, but just uncalled for. I thought the positive special teams wise, we had 2 inside the 10, 2 punts inside the 10. So our pooch game has been pretty good, and our our field goal protection continues to be better, which was a point of emphasis. And then Sinkfield, I thought, did a really nice job. Outside of one he didn't field, I thought he did a nice job in the punt return game. And so, but not real pleased with the special teams. We invest a lot of time. We expect to be better, and we need to be better this week. Offensively, talk about the negatives first. 2 turnovers, really poor start. And then probably the most disappointing thing for me was just the 0 for 2 on the sudden change. That's something we've got to get better at. Defense gives 2 turnovers to the offense there on short fields and no points. That's disappointing. Positives, 82 plays, 544 yards, really controlled the clock. Really good on first down, which has also been a point of emphasis. And then 4 for 4 in the red zone with touchdowns, and then 13 explosive plays, which is something that we really worked on the bye week. And we were able to hit on some shots. We called over 12 shot plays in the game, so that was good. Defensively, the negatives, first of all, we allowed them both times we had them backed up. We allowed them out of our own end zone, which we can't afford to do moving forward. Disappointed how some of our defensive guys are playing on special teams. We're playing with great effort and energy and physicality on the defense side of the ball, and we expect the same when those guys line up on our special teams units. We're not getting that right now. Positives, 2 takeaways. We had 5 sacks, 11 TFLs, 2-point yards per rush, and 7 first downs in a game. One of them being penalty. That's big time. And so, next thing I want to do is kind of congratulate our guys that won the Big 12 Player of the Weeks. Obviously, being the only game that helps, but I thought all 3 award winners really played outstanding in the game. Letty Brown, we've talked about him a bunch. He was the difference for us offensively. And then Josh Chandler has played really at a high level back-to-back games now versus Baylor and Kansas. And then Akeem Messidor, true freshman that we're excited about. Not only did he get the Big 12 newcomer, but he also won a couple national freshman awards as well. So that's I think the future is really bright for him. Our awards that we give in-house, kind of run through those. Offensive line award, I think for the second consecutive game, graded out at 87%. Had the most production points, played every single snap, had great energy, really done a nice job from a leadership standpoint. So the O-lineman of the week was Chase Barrett. Special teams player Kyle Poland. Perfect snaps, good operation, really underrated in his coverage ability. He's done a nice job being either the first or second down on our punt team. Defensively, in the way we do these, we don't. If they win a conference or a national award, we usually give it at somebody else in-house. I thought our defense player of the week was Jeff Pooler. Played his best game that I've seen. Best game as a Mountaineer. And it really goes back to effort. He made all kinds of effort plays, flew around, 2 sacks, 2.5 TFLs. Just really impressed with how he played. Offensive player of the week, Bryce Wheaton, 5 receptions, 89 yards, blocked the best he's blocked on the perimeter. He continues to keep coming. And I thought this was a positive step for him. Our new blue collar award goes to a guy that starts on our punt team at the gunner. Did an outstanding job there. He's on the front line of kickoff return. Made all 3 of his blocks on that. He was on our punt return unit where he was successful on all his blocks, what we were asking him to do. Really blocks well on the perimeter. He had 2 receptions for 50 yards, and that's Reese Smith, wins the Blue Collar Award for this week. Juice guy, the guy that does best on the sideline, somebody that you hear me mention a lot because I think he's a glue guy. He's a great guy to have in our program, and he really stands for a lot of things I think are positive about being a Mountaineer, and that's Drew Joseph. And then our scout team players of the week this week, special teams, Lorenzo Dorr, who does a great job giving a look and really earned a scholarship doing that. And then Avarius Sparrow is the offensive scout team player of the week. He earned himself an opportunity to get a couple carries in the game. And then defensively, another freshman we're excited about, Taurus Simmons. Those are the scout team players of the week. And so those are the award winners. In a wrap-up, good win. I thought, always good to win at home, good to win in front with fans back in the stadium. And now we turn our sights to Texas Tech. And so heading to Lubbock this weekend, Texas Tech coming off a bye week. They beat us handedly coming off a bye week last year. They played a very difficult schedule. I think their record doesn't tell the story necessarily. They got beat by a very talented Texas team where they led by 15 in the fourth quarter. Played Kansas State on the road, who's tied for first in our league. Had an opportunity to win that game in the fourth quarter. And then played at Iowa State, who's also tied for first in our league, and that's one of the toughest places to play in the Big 12. And so kind of preview each phase for them. Special teams-wise, first of all, I think they have one of the best special teams coordinators in the country. Coach Tomberdahl is very, very well respected. They're talented at specialists, punter and kicker, both returning all league guys. And then kickoff returner, Carter, he's been out, but if he plays, he's very, very good. And I'm sure after watching our kickoff team last week, he's pretty fired up. And and they're very good in their block game. They're gonna be aggressive. They'll come after our punts and our field goals. So we've got to do a good job in protection. That'll be an emphasis for us. Offensively, they're spread. They'll be the fastest tempo team we play all year. Play really fast. Dual threat quarterback making his first start. He's played a bunch of games, 15, 16 games in his career. And I think they have one of the top O-lines in the Big 12. Very good interior-wise. They really controlled the line of scrimmage versus us last year. And so talented and tall at wideout. You know, I always look like a basketball team. They're 6'3", 6'5", can go up and get the ball. Both those guys on the outside have made a bunch of plays, and their slots had a field day versus last year. And then Thompson is, I think, a very underrated back. I think he'll be an NFL player. He's a guy that can run inside, run outside. He catches the ball out of the backfield. Very good. Reminds me a lot of the guys that have been at Tech that played running back. Because you look at it, there's been a lot of running backs through the years that played at Texas Tech that are in the NFL, and he reminds me a lot of those guys. And so defensively, 3 down front, a lot of different looks in the secondary. The D-line is very strong. That really sticks out to you. And that was in my notes from last year. I thought they really pushed us around. A lot of talent at linebacker. They lost some guys, one draft pick, another guy I thought was really good, but they've got another guy, junior college, transferred. You know, I think he was number 1 prospect junior college-wise in the country, and transferred from Arizona. It's a good player, and another transfer in there. But I think they're talented at linebacker and play a lot of guys all over the field. And so traditionally done a really good job of creating turnovers. And so we're going to have to be very in tune to that. So kind of wrapping up here, need to have a good week of prep. We've got to continue to make our improvements. I think we are getting better. We've definitely not arrived, and our guys know that. And that's in all 3 phases. And so need to handle the challenge of traveling. It's a long trip, and we got to do a better job playing on the road than we did when we went to Stillwater. So with that, I'll take questions.
First question today will be from Greg Hunter. Go ahead, Greg.
So, Neal, we've talked about the run game since last year. 4 games in, your numbers are way, way better. I mean, from your analysis, is the improvement noticeable, or is it still too early to tell?
Well, I think we've got to be able to hold it. I do. We've got to have some answers in our run game off some of the ways that people are starting to defend us. So I'm not ready to sit up here and announce that we arrived. I think Letty has shown early through 3 league games that he's a really good player. I think he's shown that. I thought we blocked movement better against Kansas than we had at any point the last 2 years. But we're getting ready to go in this stretch. That's kind of what I was saying, Greg, after the game. I think these next really 4 weeks will kind of be the tell. You know, you ask me this in a month, I'll have a really firm answer for you, you know, as far as how much improvement. We're definitely better, but how much, I think the next 4 weeks will tell.
Next question is from Michael Sussman. Go ahead. Go ahead, Michael. Okay, we'll go to Ryan Pritt. Go ahead, Ryan.
Hey, Neal, just kind of wanted to ask you a 2-parter about Sam James. The first 3 quarters probably weren't his finest moments Saturday, but you got him that late touchdown catch there. You know, how important was that, do you think, from a confidence standpoint for him, and just where is he, and how difficult is it to kind of coach a guy can be such a pivotal part of your offense, and he has to be better, but you're also kind of not wanting to kill his confidence either as we move forward.
Yeah, I think that he's really talented. Hadn't performed up to the level that probably he would like or we would like. I don't think it's a lack of effort. That's where you get concerned as a coach. If it's effort, if he's not preparing, not taking care of his body, none of those are issues. He hadn't caught the ball like he wants to. And my message to him is you can't be so tied into the results. What you can control is how you prepare, how hard you play, doing your job, and then part of that preparation is catching balls and things like that. So, he's not a guy that we're giving up on by any means. He's a guy we have a lot of trust in. He's made a bunch of plays here over the last 2 years. He will make plays for us this year. Going through a little bit of a case of the drops. I think he'll bounce back. That's one of the major reasons we got him in there. Wanted to get him that ball, and we felt like it had a good chance to score, and that will. And then I wanted him to understand that not only his teammates who they fully support him, they believe in him, but also the staff, we believe in him too, and I think you'll see him bounce back.
Okay, Michael, we'll try it again. Can you hear us? Okay, we'll go to Cody Nesper. Go ahead, Cody.
I just wanted to ask you a couple, personnel questions. The one just with Jared obviously going back to his hometown to play, just where's he at? Have you talked to him about that or what that's going to be like? And then you mentioned Colin Schooler. Is obviously he and Tony played a lot of football together. Is Tony able to give you like a scouting report on him, or have you talked to Tony about what Schooler can do?
Yeah, so I'll probably have a couple of conversations with Tony later on today into tomorrow about Schooler. We haven't spoken on him. We've spoken, but we haven't talked about him necessarily. He'll be able to tell what kind of guy he is and all kinds of stuff. But they're running an entirely different system at Tech that they did at Arizona. Same with Tony. Both of them are actually playing the opposite position they played at Arizona, and so he'll be able to get some insight on a little bit, but it won't be just a ton of helpful knowledge probably. And then the first question is, Jared and I'll talk about going back to Lubbock, but it's not something we're gonna spend he's been in that stadium numerous times. He's practiced. I don't know if he's played in there or not. He may have played a game in high school there. I'm not sure. I need to ask him. But he's watched his brother play. He's been there as a fan. Obviously, that's not necessarily where he grew up, but that's where he went to high school there in Lubbock. And so he'll be emotional about going back and excited. But he's got to be able to control those emotions, not any different than any other game. We're going to talk a lot about mindset and just kind of staying neutral.
Next question is from Chris Anderson. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Coach. After the game, you mentioned that Kansas came out with that even four-man front. It really gave you guys a couple issues on the first two drives, but it seemed like the blocking and the protection were drastically improved after that. Can you walk us through the in-game change and what was going on the sidelines, how you guys adjusted there?
Yeah, from really the second, not only were they playing more four-man front than they've ever shown, and they were shifting to it really late in our cadence. So they were showing a three-man head up and they were shifting to a four-man, which is something we didn't show our players, which looking back, wish we would have. But so what we did really after the first series, and then it really showed after the second series, is we got them over the sideline. Credit to Coach Moore and Tyler Orlowski and Coach Trickett with the tight ends and Coach Scott with the running backs. They got all their guys over there, and we just really talked through our adjustments and how we wanted to handle if they were going to be in a four down. And there's obviously carryover. We practice against a four down a lot. Baylor was primarily a four down team. And so once we made the adjustments, and really it's about communication and making sure we got everything ID'd, where the tight ends, O-line, and running backs are all on the same page, then we were much improved protection-wise. We were much improved getting hats on the people we were supposed to in the run game.
Next question is from Skylar Callahan. Go ahead, Skylar.
Hey, Neal, one guy you've already mentioned, Jeffrey Puller, arguably playing the best football he's played here. Just talk about kind of what his importance is to this defense and maybe what are some changes that you've seen in him just going back to last season.
Well, changed his body tremendously since January a year ago when I first saw him. He's one of the guys that Mike Joseph always uses on the before and after pictures. And it's really impressive how he's changed his body. And he's one of the guys, most time when guys come in, we're adding weight to him and bulking him up. He was a guy that came in with some excess weight and really reduced down. And he's really grown up too, really since first meeting him, a year ago, January, and really matured, kind of grown into one of the leaders on the defense side of the ball. And then just the effort he played with on Saturday, that's what I was most impressed with. I mean, and that it goes back to what we've been preaching defensively for the last month is if you play with extreme effort and you're physical, man, you got a chance. Even if you're making mistakes, you got a chance, and he did. It was really impressive how hard he played on Saturday.
Go ahead, Kevin Kinger.
As you used the off week, you said to try out players at a bunch of positions. Special teams last Saturday, different kickoff guy for some snaps, different in punting. Are those going to be situational things, or did you learn something new, changes there going forward? What's the outlook there?
Yeah, Kevin, we're just going to compete week to week. Our kickoff placements hadn't been exactly what we wanted them to be. Staley was better than Casey on Saturday, so he did it, handle them in the second half. But we've got to be more consistent there. Same with our punting. We need more hang time. And so we'll continue probably to use both those guys in both those roles.
Next question is from Mike Kazaza.
Good afternoon, Neal. How are you?
Mike, I'm good. Good.
Thanks. I have a question about red zone offense where it's been on a roll lately, and improvements are one thing. How much of an overhaul did you do? Was it getting new plays and formations and packages in there, or was it just getting better at things that maybe misfired more often than not last year?
I think it's a combination. I think Jared has been beneficial. Travis Trickett has had some really good ideas going back to quarantine time. And so we have some different type of plays. Our approach has been probably a little bit different. It changes all the time too. It's like if you go back, just calling plays, there's been a few times where we've been close to the top in the country, maybe even finished number one time. And then there's like last year, we were one of the worst, so a lot of it has to do with guys making plays. I think the one thing too that's been beneficial. So you got guys making plays, you got some things approach wise, how we're calling it, and then some of the schematics we're doing. I think that's those all have worked together. And then the really the last thing is we've always practiced it, but we practiced it more intentionally. Like I'm not sure there's been a day since we've been back the last whatever in July that we haven't done some type of red zone, or we call it score zone once you get inside the 12.
Go ahead, John Antonic.
Drilling a little deeper here on their O-line. They've given up, 3 sacks and 187 pass attempts. They've got
John, you don't want to talk about the 87-yard run?
No, I'm talking about Texas Tech's O-line.
Oh, you don't want to talk about our 87-yard run, though?
Yeah, we'll get to that. But I'm just curious, is that a big matchup, the defensive line against their O-line? I don't think you had a sack last year against them. What do you see from them?
Well, I really think they're good, John. I do. I thought they were good last year. They're really big. Okay, that's the first thing that sticks out to you is they're big and they're long. If you look across their depth chart, they're big and they're long. They did a really good job getting their hands on us last year. They get the ball out really quick, and a lot of their passes are off quick play action style too. And so we didn't do a very good job winning at the line of scrimmage. We didn't do a very good job getting our hands up and getting hands on balls. And then they ran the ball really well against us, like you said. So, that's a matchup. That's the worst we've played in 2 years defensively was against them. They had a lot to do with it. They had a great plan. They came out and executed, and they jumped on us and really and held on. We played pretty good in the second half. By then, it was too late, and so they did. They won their one-on-ones last year, and I'm sure they expect to do it again.
Real quick, do you have enough on Columbia, or do you have to go back to Utah State and look at some of that to see what he does?
Yeah, we've got all that. We do. We've got all that. We had one of our GAs went back and pulled all the Utah State stuff from during the bye week. I think they announced he was starting during their bye week, so went back and pulled all those. So we've seen that. I think he's more than capable. They obviously like him. They had a really good quarterback in Bowman who threw the ball. They had some issues at Iowa State. Columbia came in. Really, if you look at it, their scoring drives over the last 2 games have been led by him. He's a dual threat guy. Gets the ball out of his hands super fast. Got a quick release. He's athletic. Obviously knows the offense being in it for multiple years. So we know he's going to be a challenge.
Time for one last question. Go ahead, Greg Hunter.
So, Coach, the Mountaineers that were there in 2012 talk about that as a nightmare, played in a tornado and all those things. So you're on the other side. Just your memories of that West Virginia Texas Tech game.
We're flipping the script here, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. When you live out there, man, the wind, you don't even think about it. And I'm serious about that. And so Jared's brother Seth was our quarterback, threw a really tight ball. So the wind wasn't – when I first went out there in spring of 2010, and the wind blows more in the spring than it does in the fall, I remember Sonny Cumbie, who's OC at TCU now, was our inside receiver coach at the time. I'm like, man, like we're going to practice out there like this? He's like, this is kind of a normal West Texas day. And he told me something I'll never forget. And he said, hey, when you're recruiting quarterbacks here, you got to make sure their nose is tight. The nose of the ball is tight. If their nose wobbles, then you're going to have some issues. Well, Seth, he'll be fired up. I'm bragging on him, but he threw as tight a ball as you're going to see, and we were really good on offense that year too. I mean, we had Jason Morrow, who ended up being a first pick of the second round, I believe, at tight end. We had a junior college receiver that played that day. They got hurt. That was from Gulf Coast. I think it would have been special. He broke his foot that day. We had Eric Ward, who's one of the all-time leading receivers there. We had Jakeem Grant, who's still playing for the Miami Dolphins. These are off top. We had a kid named Derek Moore, who was a big physical receiver. And then we were good at running back too. We had DeAndre Washington, who's still playing in the NFL. I mean, we had some good players. We had Ladrian Waddle, who's an NFL guy. I mean, we were really talented. And West Virginia came in. I think they'd just beaten Texas the week before. And we played well on defense that day too at Tech. Created some turnovers. And then in a lot of ways, it was similar to our game that we played against them last year. We jumped up. It was, that's been longer, and I'd like to probably. It doesn't seem that long ago, but it was. And so we jumped up. I don't know if it was 21-0. It was quick. And then we were able to hang on, but it was one of those days. The wind was blowing, but I mean, I don't remember if it was. The people here say it was blowing real bad. I don't remember it that way. I know it was blowing some, but I don't really remember all the details of it.
Okay, Coach. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Thank you all.
All right, that's the head coach of the Mountaineers, Neal Brown, as he just wrapped up his press conference. We're back upstairs here for those on the radio side, inside the network television booth. For those watching on all of our digital platforms, we thank you for tuning in as well. Dan Zangrilli, Dale Wolfley. Wolf, your immediate takeaway. What do you have?
Well, I'll tell you, I think he's ready for this game. I think he's already in preparation mode. You can sense it. There's a sense of focus on him, I think, right now. He talked about the Kansas game, realizing that, Kansas is not at the top of the Big 12, but I know that he's happy with a lot of the performances going on. But again, taking that in stride, knowing that it's a greater challenge this weekend. And I think you really got that from him. That's the vibe we were talking about while we were listening to him, Danny. And I think he's ready, and I think that's going to trickle down and make sure that this team is ready.
Yeah, and obviously one of the big storylines this week is going to be Jared Daggy returning to Lubbock. So with that, we now turn our attention here, and this segment is brought to you by Farmer Klein and Campbell, West Virginia's injury lawyers. Sean Reagan, quarterback's coach, is on the phone with us right now. We'll be the first ones to ask you about it. What's Jared's mindset, Coach, going back home, if you will, to a place that he's extremely familiar with? I would assume that he has some sort of chip on his shoulder, maybe something to prove, if you will. That's got to be a difficult thing to try to coach and try to harness and funnel all that energy to the proper place, right?
Okay, we're joined now by quarterback Jared Daggy. Questions for Jared? We'll start with John Antonic.
Jared, I got to ask you, have you ever thrown any tacos at opposing players when you were at Texas Tech? And just give us some of your thoughts on going back home.
Yeah, when I was a little kid going to the game, I threw my fair share of tortillas down on the field, and I'm excited just to go home and play in front of a lot of my friends and family. It's going to be exciting.
Go ahead, Greg Hunter.
So we just talked to Neal about the 2012 game, and you've talked in the past about how you were there, but go over that again, because obviously that was a big moment for your brother and for Texas Tech.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was yesterday. Geno Smith and Stedman Bailey and Tavon Austin, all those guys came in ranked 3 or 5, I can't remember. And my brother had a really good game, and I asked my dad if I could rush the field. Went on the field and ran around. Tried to find my brother, couldn't find him, but just kind of enjoyed the experience of getting to rush the field, and was hoping I could do that one day. And hopefully this time I can reverse the roles and go out there and do what my brother did for West Virginia.
Kevin Kinder is next. Go ahead, Kevin.
When you have a negative play or something bad happens during the game, what's the process you go through to kind of reset and get back on track? Anybody particular you talk to, anything you do? And then, what does that work? What's the result of that, working that out when, that happens, something happens well positive?
Yeah, first thing I do is I go get on the phone, talk to Coach Reagan, see what I did wrong or what he saw, what I saw, get it fixed. And then go to the old linemen, touch all those guys, let them know that we're going to go to the next play, go to the receivers, tell them I'm coming right back to them, and just reset my mind and play the next play.
Don Williams is next. Hi, Don.
Hello, thank you. Hey, Jared, Neal was talking yesterday on the conference call about his recollections of you when you would come to camp. He said you and Charlie Brewer would come to camp when y'all were young guys. Mm-hmm. Do you remember how many times you went to camp at Texas Tech and what that experience was like, and what your early impressions were of Neal when you were, 12 years old or whatever?
Yes, sir. I mean, I was going to camps at Tech ever since I could throw a football. I was going to the 3-day camps, the 1-day camps, and then when Coach Brown was there, I remember specifically dropping on a line, and we're still doing that today. And I always liked him ever since I met him. Like I said, he would take us down there, just him and me, and throw on the game field. So, I've been going to camps at Tech for a while, and I specifically remember getting some work in with Coach Brown.
We'll go to Cody Nesper. Hi, Cody.
Hi, hey Jared. I was just wondering, since the Pac-12 hasn't started yet, do you know is Seth going to be able to go on Saturday? And then I was just wondering if you could talk on the relationship between you guys and what it was like for you to kind of grow up watching him play.
I think they're having practice right now and scrimmages on Saturdays. They're basically in fall camp right now, so he's in full force of coaching and doing that whole deal right now. So he won't be able to make the game. I'm sure he'll watch it on TV. And growing up, it was like a unreal experience for me. just watching him go to work on Saturdays is exactly what I wanted to do. Seeing him sling the ball around, which made me go want to play in an air raid offense just like that, and sling the ball around. And I've gained a lot of knowledge from him, and I still do today. And hopefully one day I'll get to coach with him too. So I'm just really following in his footsteps, and just trying to, be just like him.
We'll go back to Greg Hunter.
So, Jared, the West Texas winds are notorious for those of us who aren't there. So you lived in it. What's it like? And then what's it like to play in it? And are there fundamentals you have to do to be successful in it?
Yeah, I grew up in high school having to deal with it, going to camps at Tech, dealing with it. And really, I don't think it's a huge deal. You just kind of have to tighten your spiral down. And put maybe a little more velocity on it, but there's no secret to it or key to it. Just throw the football in the wind.
We'll go to Mike Kazaza.
Hey, Jared, how's it going?
How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I have two for you. One's on your receivers, and how guys like Bryce and Sam are still young and learn a little bit. And I'm imagining part of your responsibility is to kind of pay individual attention to them and make sure that they're not off the rails and they stay on track for you. Just curious how you go about that. And then separately, when you guys get down inside that 20, it seems like things change and you're pretty effective down there, scoring a lot. What's different for you as a quarterback, whether it's the plays, the personnel, or the timing, once you get down in that red zone?
I think the fact that we made it a point of emphasis during fall camp of wanting to be better in the red zone. I think we have, Coach Parker has taken it upon him to call the plays when he gets in the red zone. I think he's done a really good job of that. And then just keep working it in practice, and it keeps making us better once we get in the red zone.
Back to you, John.
Yeah, just curious. I don't know if you said this before or not. How many people you got coming to the game, I guess, with the reduced capacity there? Is there any issues with getting all your crew into the game to watch you?
Hasn't really been any issues. I think a lot of guys aren't using their tickets to this game, so I've been asking a couple guys to get me some of their tickets, and I think I'll have around 15-plus family and friends come and cheer in my section.
These final two questions. Back to Don.
Jared, can you remind us how old were you or what grade were you in when y'all moved to Lubbock? And I remember, of course, Seth going to Friendship. What schools did you attend when you were living here?
So I started in Ira, Texas. I didn't go to school there, and then we moved to Crane, Texas. I think I went from pre-K to first grade. We moved to Lubbock. My brother went to Friendship. I was there from second and third grade, and then we moved back to Ira. I was there from fourth grade to sophomore year, and moved back to Lubbock, and I went to Lubbock Cooper my junior and senior year.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Jared, I want to get back to the receivers and kind of the caretaker role you have with Bryce and Sam.
Yeah, I mean, those two guys are two of our best receivers, and if they're having good games or bad games, I'm always there. Right when I come off the sidelines, if it's a drop, I'm telling them I'm coming right back to them every time. Those are my two go-to guys. If they're if they're balling out, then I don't really got to say much to them. And if their confidence is high, we really don't have to say much to them. Just keep giving them the football.
Okay, Jared, thank you very much.
Well, you have to be doing great. We're glad to have you because, I mean, the way that the defensive line is playing, the way that the defense is playing, everybody's firing on all cylinders. Obviously, the accolades are starting to pour in. The attention is starting to be focused upon this defensive unit. And I was talking to Josh Chandler-Samito a little earlier today, and he mentioned, and he's all business, by the way, nobody's buying into their own hype. And he said on our post-game radio interview that we want more. We're getting greedy. We're greedy and gritty. Obviously, that was big on social media. They put a video out on that on the West Virginia football Twitter page. But that seems to be an accurate depiction of where this whole unit is. 11-plus guys, greedy and gritty right now.
Yes, sir. That's what get down on those terms when we break the huddle and everything, and that's what we try to play by. It's like Chandler was telling you, it's never about like one person's success or anything. Like, we just like having fun out there, so it's like a race to the football with everybody out there because like you never know who's going to make the play.
So, Jeffrey, when you moved into this defense last year and it became an attacking defense as opposed to the system before, it was more of a hold up the offensive linemen so the backers could get in there and make tackles, where now you have the opportunity yourself to penetrate and disrupt, and that's what you're doing right now, which I'm absolutely.
Questions for Coach Parker? First one will be from Kevin Kinder.
Coach got a lot of wide receivers on the field against Kansas. A lot of, I guess, film to look at. After that, plus the off week of practice, does the rotation start narrowing down a little bit, or have most of those players earned the shot to get on the field? Where is that right now?
Yep, good question, Kevin. Yeah, we got a lot of guys that have earned the right to be out there and have earned the right to be out there and prove what they can do production-wise during, a game, which is much different, I mean, it's real that when you do things out there and the big lights are on and you do it in this conference and those things tend to show for themselves. So we're just really challenging our guys as an offensive staff to go out there, earn what they get during practice and during the week, and then go out there on Saturdays and see what we can get. So it was good to play. I think we played 8 significant guys. Of course, TJ went out with the injury early, but we played 8 guys pretty significantly out there. We're starting to develop trust, and to be honest with you, I think it builds program morale and long-term success, Kevin, because I think if you're not careful, you can play 3 or 4 guys and sit there, and there's a lot of guys sitting there wondering if they can or can't play. And I think that our program is built on a lot of long-term success at the wideout position, and the way we're going to do that is to be able to show our current players and our future players that, hey, we play a lot of guys, we have a lot of fun, we're going to throw the football, we're going to be fast-paced, and so we're just trying to promote that and do that and build confidence as we do it.
Okay, Ryan, we'll go to you.
Hey, Jared, I asked Neal this. I'd like to get your perspective, too. Just a little bit on Sam James. Obviously, the first 3.5 quarters on Saturday probably weren't his finest moments, but you got him a touchdown catch late in that game. Just, how important was that to give him something to end the day on that was positive, and just how are you guys handling trying to get him on track with the potential he has? It has to be important for your offense.
Awesome question. Hey, listen, we have all been there, right? I mean, somehow, some way, every one of us have been there. And you think about it, we live in a pretty cynical world, unfortunately, at times. And so what do? Do you lose faith and teach a kid how to fail and just be tossed to the side? Or do you teach a kid how to stand tall, face it when everyone else probably wants him to sit, or trust the fact that Sam James is a good player who went through a tough time there in the first quarter and a half, and we've got to do something to stand by the kid, or what's he going to stand for later in life? And so it's a fine line too. He's also got to be a productive player, and he knows that. But I think that for him to stay with it and figure it out and have that piece of success then is going to help him later. And for us to find a way to get us through and give guys the right to make plays, but also stand by our guys, whether it be him or anyone else, is crucial not only in football but in life. And so it's a valuable lesson for all of us, and we're going to continue to grow together, support our players, and believe in them regardless of results first. And then I bet in the long run we're going to be better for it, both as men as players.
Go ahead, Greg Hunter.
So Jared, this is probably a better question for Sean Reagan, but do you worry about Jared Daggy getting overhyped going home, playing in front of, family and friends directly? And is he a kid that could get overexcited, or do you not worry about that too much?
I wouldn't worry about it. I don't think Coach Reagan or he is either. I think that we would all be fooling ourselves if there isn't thoughts by him, his family, and those things. But at the same time, I think that, again, if you go back and you realize that all of the truth lies through work, and you don't just focus on things that will make you ride this wave. Coach Brown has talked about some things about the process and staying neutral. And I think at a quarterback position, there is no better way of wording it than the ability for him to stay neutral. Because if you're not careful, if you ride the wave of emotion, what does a loss do to you? What does a negative play do to you? What do these things do to you when in reality it should really be based on a process of getting better every day and winning games week by week and not thinking ahead?
Next, we'll go to Cody.
Hey, Jared. So last year, drops were a pretty big issue with the receivers, and that kind of came back around early on Saturday. And last year, Neal told us the remedy for that is just to get on the jugs machine. I was wondering if you have the same kind of sentiment, or if you have any, how do you deal with drops?
Yeah, it's it comes up every place I've been. It was a topic that came up in the last place I was at, other places before. Those things come up because there's such a I say it all the time in the years doing this, it's such a little league coach mentality. Anybody who drops a ball, everybody screams, my mom included back home. What do we scream? We scream, catch the ball, So it's just like the kid that's pitching. I've said this before publicly, like, son, throw strikes. Oh, I got you, Dad. I got you. You want me to throw strikes, not balls, So listen, it is an issue that we can't let be an issue. So the response to a drop is two things. During the game, you got to have a trigger that allows your body to get back to finding some fundamental issues of why you dropped it, or having a trigger not to go there again. And then the tough part is, of course, Coach Brown and I agree totally on it. There is work to be put in to make sure, but I think it's the right kind of work. I could go out there right now on a jugs machine and catch balls at 39 years old with 4 kids and a dog now and still catch it at a high level. But the difference is, how many catches can we create that are game-like, that build confidence for the right reasons, that allow him to know that he's going to catch the football when it matters most. So I think it's going back to work, but it's also creating game-like catches so you build real estate in your mind to where one doesn't turn into two.
Go ahead, Mike.
Jared, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Oh, great. Thank you. I have a question about the red zone stuff and the role you all have been on lately. And I was curious what changes when you get down there. But I think Jarrett might have just let it slip where he said that you call the plays when you get down the plays.
Yeah. Well,
and also,
listen.
Going back to that Sam play, and I'll let you finish there, but that just seemed like a play that is specifically for that spot to get him a touchdown. The route was really clever, and they probably works in a short space. How much do things change just schematically down there once you get closer?
Yeah, so good questions. Much love to Jarrett, but listen, we do this. This offense, from Coach Brown to me to down, we all do this together. So it's a pretty cool little piece of artwork that your whole staff puts together. We give some love to one of our guys that we work on things week by week. We find different plays we want to put in. So one of those plays to our staff guys, we kind of found a different way, and Ryan Nealon, to give him a shout out. So we're finding ways to put plays in. So that particular play was found by Coach Nealon, Ryan Nealon, who's out there doing some grind work in the background of some film that you wouldn't even hear about unless you ask the question. So the point is, we're all responsible as a staff to making sure we find success, and the red zone success is built by all of us. And I think we've taken great pride from the offseason on in 3 critical areas, but especially in the red zone, and our ability to score points and run the football has been critical pushes. So it's been an entire year of making sure we get better in those 2 key places. So what have we improved on as an offense right now, right? We've improved in running the football. We're improving in the red zone. And now there's more that we just got to continue to grow on. So I think it's the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? I think, therefore I am. So whatever we want to get better at and preach on, and we spend our time at, we're going to get better at if we're doing it right. And I believe in our staff and our players, and I think that's why we're seeing some success that will continue to grow as we keep going.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, Coach, forgive me if this has been asked. I was kind of but Keith Patterson, we're familiar with him. He's kind of a risk-reward type deal where they'll try to hunt for big plays and also give up big plays. What do you see from this defense this year?
Yeah, that's fair. You're looking at a defense and a personality that allows you to think you can throw the football at times. Then it also will give you an umbrella coverage of 3-down looks with drop 8 that will tell you to run it, and then they'll fool you. So it is a kind of a game of cat and mouse of looking at some fronts to see where you can fit the football and then how they close the space to make you not have those running lanes. So it is, it's built a lot like us with how they do some things on our defense to try to stop the run different ways and give you different looks. And then, of course, change up multiple coverage looks, which are very difficult at times to prepare for. And they've done a nice job because those windows are a little iffy when you start talking about different coverages and spins. So you've got to work those things against multiple looks. And sometimes that's tough to show in a week's time.
Real quick, I know chunk plays have been a topic of conversation. They've given up some this year. I think I saw a stat like 11 pass plays of 25 yards or more. And I think that Houston Baptist game, they gave up some touchdown passes. They are there if you can get them, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've certainly in the past have given them up. They've had 2 weeks to close some of those windows up. And I know they're going to work on that, and we do as well. So I think that it's there and things have showed up, and I know obviously with that kind of staff and who they are, they're going to work on shoring those up. So we've got to be careful on how we throw and what we throw.
Back to you, Mike.
Jared, I want to kind of follow up on one thing on the red zone, not to get negative, but it kind of feels like that was one shortcoming in the Oklahoma State where you guys kind of felt you didn't do quite as well as you could have. And that's really the one exception this year for the red zone. Was there a difference in what was called, what worked, but didn't in that game versus all the other instances so far?
No, good question. I think more than anything, if you look back on it, which we all study it hard. Unfortunately, to be fair, you look at it, if you go back and look at a couple RPO situations without kind of labeling exact plays, but there's a couple RPO situations and things where if we throw a good ball or if we make a play and make a catch, there's a couple key points right there in the low red that we could have really finished drives and it would have went differently for us. So some of it was just early year timing on some RPO stuff because of the different loaded box fronts they gave us. And then, of course, as we've grown to get better in that situation, maybe the way we have thought about game planning and things has changed to adjust for that as well. So it's a little bit of both, to be real honest with you.
Any final questions for Coach Parker? Okay, Coach, thanks for the time. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you all.
Yeah, I am.
Joined now by Coach Addae. Questions for Coach? Go ahead, John Antonic.
Hey, can you just talk about what you've seen from their quarterback? Looks like the quick game, athletic, pass run, dual threat guy, maybe similar to what you were dealing with Brewer a little bit, maybe?
That's exactly right. If you compare him to someone, it's probably Brewer. Ball getting out fast, knows where he wants to go with the ball, can deliver it. Obviously, he has as you said, the dual threat aspect, which every week we talk about how many problems that presents for us. And so it's going to be a good challenge. It'll be a good challenge.
We'll go to Cody Nesper next.
Hey, Jamal. I know in the past you've talked about having recruited Tony to Arizona.
Yes.
Did you overlap with Colin Schooler there?
I sure did. Sure did.
Yeah. And then I guess what's your impression of him? And then what do you think it's going to be like for him and Tony to be on opposite sidelines?
I'll start with the second part of that question. They both will be weirded out, for a lack of a better term, with it all. From what I can remember, the time that we had them at Arizona, they were, you couldn't find one without the other. They were always together. Come in as freshmen and both played really well. If I'm not mistaken, both were freshman All-American, or at least garnered a bunch of recognition nationally. And so you would have thought that those were two guys that were going to play together for forever. Obviously, fast forward a few years, and that's not the case. Kind of an exact opposite, where they're playing against each other. But, going to be fun. Going to be fun. I know Colin Schooler is a competitor, great player. For all the reasons we recruited him at Arizona. I love the way he plays. I like the way he approaches a game. Comes from a football pedigree with dad and his brothers and that whole deal. And he's the whole thing. He's a whole player. And, we're going to have to do a good job against him, obviously.
Over to Greg Hunter.
So, Jamal, I think the third Big 12 game, third sort of new quarterback that's playing against you guys that hasn't played a ton before. Challenges for you guys when you may not know him as well as guy you have 10 games of full tape on, or the challenges for a young quarterback as well.
Yeah, so it's obvious that if you don't have information on whoever you're playing, that it makes it a little bit tougher to defend them. The one thing we know is that these guys have had 2 weeks, and so that also lends to having more time to maybe do some things that fit his skill set maybe more than other guys or a former quarterback. But for us, what we like to do, and I say it week in and week out, is to build everything that we do with rules that really allow us to be mistake-free and allow the kids to play fast. And when we do that without beating our chest as coaches and really just turn them loose, it's more so of not screwing it up as opposed to outwitting ourselves. In terms of a freshman quarterback, it's a tough position to play, whether you're a freshman or you're a senior. There's some serious teaching and some serious bumps and bruises that you have to take along the way in order to become really elite there. And, we like to hope that we can add to that for this kid and make some things difficult for him. We like to think that we make it difficult for every quarterback, regardless of year. And this mindset is going to be no different. We're going to give him some things and take them away and some smoke and mirrors and hope that he throws us a few. That's what it comes down to.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Jamal, it seems like we're on here every week talking about a dual threat quarterback. You've seen a few of them this year.
Right.
From the outside, it seems like you've done a pretty good job at containing them. I was just kind of wanting your assessment of that area, and then is the fact that you're preparing for one every week helping in terms of that?
Yeah. It's all about being sound. Dual threat quarterbacks force you to have to play what you call the second play. And a lot of times that's you covering the first play and having done a masterful job doing so, and then all of a sudden the guys start to scramble, and if you don't plaster or do your job or outwork them on that second play, you end up giving up probably a bigger play than if you would have lost the original, the called play. And so they force you to defend the football and defend really their receivers for the entire count of the play. That's the first thing. The second thing is that if you don't do your job, meaning that you're not gap sound, if you don't have leverage on your defense, if you don't have everything cupped, they can really do some damage, obviously, with their legs and move chains. And that keeps the defense on the field, which probably lends to them having, gaining some yards and obviously ultimately points. And so, dual threat quarterbacks are not what you want to see as a defensive staff. But it's the thing of today. I don't know that there are very many teams that don't carry, if not one as a starter, one on the roster. And so no different than any other week, we've got to be buttoned up in what we do and be ready for whatever shows.
Okay, Kevin, you're next.
Was watching Alonzo on his interception, the way he disguised his coverage and dropped back to get the pick. With Tyke and Sean, how much more have you been able to disguise things because they are more experienced, more comfortable now in this defense?
Yeah. A lot of what we do comes out of the same shell, so it looks probably really similar before the play, and that's a natural disguise in itself. I thought on that play that, he went through his whole progression. He had coverage on a certain receiver. That receiver did not go out. He's told to get his eyes to a certain area when that happens. He did exactly what he's been coached to do by Coach Wright, and the play is made. And again, we can beat our chest as coaches and say that we're lighting the world on fire, but the guys are really taking what they're given and running with it, and no different than any other team that I've ever coached. When you do that, you have success, and you're able to reach the end goal. And so, 4 games in, we've been able to do that. Obviously, we like to hope that we can continue that through the stretch.
Cody, we'll go to you.
So on the coach's call yesterday morning, Neal was talking about Tyke. He said, as good as he was last year, he's basically better at everything this year. And I was just wondering what your evaluation of him has been so far.
We were just watching our game against him last year, and he didn't necessarily play all that well. And it was kind of eye-opening in that, he's gotten better in a few spots. And, you like to think that that's going to happen, right? Freshman comes in and plays, and usually the biggest jump is between the first and second year, and he hasn't made a liar out of Coach Brown in that sense. I think he's played and upped his game in every aspect, and the more he does that, the more we put on his plate, and he continues to carry the weight easily and treat the coach. Really fun to coach.
Back to you, Greg.
Jamal, in terms of scouting individuals, just in a typical year, how far down, like I said, the quarterback roster do you know people? I assume you know the second guy, the third guy, but in today's world, do you have to go deeper, have at least an idea of what the fourth and fifth guy are going to do?
Yeah, well, the circumstances around it all obviously shape who you dig in on and who you're gathering information on. With a normal, healthy roster, you're probably looking at knowing exactly what the backdrop is on maybe the first 3 guys, definitely the first 2. Third guy, you want to know skill set if he offers something that's different than maybe the first 2, which lends him to be a factor. But obviously, if there's injuries at the position or if there's been some trouble at the position, then you've got to dig deeper than that. And so really it comes down to the circumstance and where they are in terms of their roster, for lack of maybe a better term there. And in this week, obviously we see all the things that are encompassed and going to continue to dig on everybody that can handle the football for them behind center. And they've got a few guys that can get the job done. And so we've got to be able to know what we'll get and how we'll get it out of each of those guys. And so we're hard at work to get that done.
Any final questions for Coach Addae? Okay, Coach, thank you very much.
Sweet. Thank you, guys.
Ready.
Joined now by Coach Leslie. Questions for Coach? Go ahead, Greg.
So Jordan, just give us your overall assessment of defensive line play. Is it improving week to week? Never going to be what you totally want, but is it getting better, or is it, been good from day one?
Who were you asking? Overall, or was there a single?
Yeah, yes, overall D-line play.
I mean, yeah, they're playing well. I mean, there's always things you could do better. There's a lot of things how people attack us that we've got to continue to improve on, which is what I call transition. And we get a lot of max protection, a lot of slide, a lot of play action, a lot of boots. Up to this point, not a lot of drop back. So when you're getting that, and that's how your people are protecting you, then you got to work some different things than your normal one-on-one pass rush or your normal pass rush drills, because it's really a totally different thing. So it's something that you got to continue to improve on, while at the same time not losing your basic pass rush fundamentals that you're going to work regardless.
Next question is from Cody Nesper.
Hey, Jared, I was just wondering, did you teach Darius how to make diving interceptions, or was that somebody else?
Coach Brown said it best. That's, at the end of the day, it's unbelievably athletic play. To get his hands under the ball and to be, parallel to the ground at 280 pounds, that in itself is all him and extremely impressive. But we made the point and continue to make the point, and that's when you chase the ball and we get 11 hats to the ball, good things will happen. And that's just a prime example. I can't remember the exact game that we were running up front, but I want to say Darius was actually moving away from that play. That was a sprint out play away from him. And he ends up recognizing what it is, coming back to it. And then when the ball goes up, he's chasing the ball and then makes the play, which is, that's what we're trying to that's what we're trying to make a habit, as far as 11 guys or 20, every guy on defense, all 22 if you're too deep or whatever it may be.
Go ahead, Greg.
So Jordan, your thoughts on Akeem Mesidor, and you guys played him mainly at defensive end this past week. So your thoughts there? Why do you think he fits better there than when he was playing at D tackle?
I think it's a little less going on as far as recognition, which is where young guys usually struggle. You're trying to get them to recognize the blocks inside are just a little more complicated. So that's a better fit for his skill set for what we're trying to do with him. Played well. Probably needs to play a little more in some different situations. But he's still learning. There's as good as from the outside looking in that he played. There's 10 to 15 more plays I can pick out that are things that down the road when people see will get him in a bad position, just fundamentally. And as that fundamental relates to our scheme of what you're not, some of the mistakes that he makes, whether it's footwork, whether it's hand placement, whether it's eye discipline, whatever it is, there's still things he has to improve on. But I mean, the thing that Akeem does is he understands that of all the mistakes and things he doesn't understand, and that the mistakes he makes is how hard he plays makes up for it. And he understands that if he's got that, he's got a chance.
Okay, John?
As a follow-up to that, is some of his production maybe related to people focusing on the Stills brothers a little bit, leaving him a little free? Can't double everybody, I guess. And then the second thing is their O-line is pretty big and had a pretty good game against you last year and has only given up 3 sacks. What do you see from them in that matchup?
I mean, yeah, Darius and Dante are going to get a lot of attention, but normally when you have one guy they can give that guy attention. When you have two, they obviously can't give both of them attention. And when you have three, well, then they have to just do what they normally, protection-wise or blocking scheme-wise, what they normally do. Or they just have to pick who they want to double, which is going back to, I think, why we get a lot of the protections that we that we get, particularly in early downs and, guys trying to take shots on us, catch us sleeping. So that's one reason why we're getting a lot of that, is that you've got all three of them. And then, don't forget the game Jeff Pooler played. So, yes, some of that is Darius and Dante, but some of it is just kind of how people are having to protect us and what we do. What was the last part of that question? Texas. Oh, Texas. Yeah.
Their O-line size and not giving up sacks.
Yeah, I thought last year they did a tremendous job between the tackles with their inside run game, and I've watched that game probably 4 times up to this point, and they did a really nice job against us. They had a beat on us what we were trying to do. We misfit some things, but they did a really, really good job inside run-wise, and really they only ran about 3 plays, but they executed them extremely well and had a really good plan for us. And then they're, how big they are, and they're really strong, makes it that much more tough. So those are things that we've got to focus on this week.
Real quickly, their scheme too, quick passing helps them a lot with their pass protection and so forth. You get that?
The last part you said it was talking about their quick game.
Just scheme-wise, does that help them a lot with their quick game, with the way they do things offensively?
Oh yeah, it's the average. I would guess, I don't know, 2.3, 2.4 seconds. Ball's gone on average, and that's every pass they've had this season. So, that's. That is what it is. It's literally like a run without handing it off. That's kind of what teams do in that situation. So it kind of neutralizes you up front. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't try to do things to try to affect that, but it just kind of limits you as far as what you can do, and your focus is a little bit different. So you just where it may not be in sacks or TFLs or whatever it may be, there's ways that you have to find to affect that style of passing game.
Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Jordan, what's up?
Hey, Mike, how you doing, bud?
Doing great, thanks, man. I wanted to ask about Bryce Brand. I believe he's eligible for this game, and I don't know what the plan is for him, and also what he brings. And then if you can kind of compare. Like for example, Sean Martin was out for his own separate reason, and he couldn't practice and participate. What's Brand's involvement been so far as like him being up to speed and when he could actually participate?
Bryce's initial issue was the issue with NCAA, and we've got that cleared up. So he is just now coming to where he can play. He brings a lot of like what Jared Bartlett. They're very similar as far as having a knack for playing on the ball and off the ball. We just got to continually try to get him in the game shape that these other guys have 4 games up on him to be able to play for the number of plays we'd like to. But for schematically, he kind of has a knack for what we like to do with that guy. So he's definitely going to be dependent upon at some point. Sean Martin, what you mentioned was the exact same with him. Now he had a good week last week, had a really good practice last night, and it's like I talk about with him is as big as he is. The thing that's got to catch up is his strength, and when it does, he's going to be. At some point this year, we're going to have to have him contribute with his skill set. He just just kind of unlucky. Last week with the last kickoff, he was slated to get the last drive of that game, and it didn't happen. So, which would have been valuable reps for him, but that's football.
Back over to you, Greg.
So Jordan, Neal said that Texas Tech runs as much tempo as anybody you guys will see in the conference. I'll give you a chance to contradict your boss if you want to do so. Is anybody faster? And what does that do for you guys? I mean, we all sort of know, but facing something that goes that fast, how challenging is that?
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I don't know the exact. You can go through the play clock on video and see how fast. The fastest is most of the time is a play every 8 seconds, and they're pretty close to that. That's about as fast as you can go. It just, it neutralizes you, it simplifies you. You can't have a lot of things that you're trying to call off of certain things, whether it's formations. You just have to have what you want to do with it, and you got to go with it, and you guys got to be able to think on the run. And substitution's an issue, so you got to pick your spots there. So, it's the toughest thing that you play against in football, because it neutralizes everything from scheme to talent, the whole thing. So it's hard.
Anything further for Coach Leslie?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, joined now by Nicktroy Fortune. Questions? Go ahead, Greg.
So Nicktroy, just in general, last year you saw action, but now you're a guy, you're a starter, you're out there 85, 90% of the snaps. So the difference in how you have progressed since a true freshman to now a sophomore starter?
Definitely preparation. Last year I had 2 seniors in front of me, so I was preparing the right way, but I knew that I wasn't going to be the first one starting off a drive. So this year, knowing that I'm starting, it's just preparation, just focusing on being consistent, week in and week out. So my preparation week in and week out. I'm just trying to make sure I'm consistent with it, staying focused, because it's not like last year. Every game I'm going in first defense. Last year it was I'm rotating in. So, yeah, it's just preparation. That was my biggest emphasis this year, knowing that I was starting this year, just making sure that my preparation was correct and, right.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I don't know how much you've dug into Texas Tech yet, or if that's still something that's going to go along down the week. But, they do have a quick passing game. They do play tempo. What are some of the challenges you've got as a corner facing a quick passing game and tempo?
Texas Tech, actually, Sunday, I went into film. I hit up one of our GAs asking them if the film was up. I wanted to get down on Texas as soon as possible. Came off a good win with Kansas, and then, after Saturday celebrating with the guys, Sunday I was already focused on Texas Tech. And I know that they're a tempo team, so my biggest emphasis this week is, staying in shape. And, we're going to get a lot of tempo thrown at us during practice to prepare for them. So it's just, being able to focus when I'm tired, because that's going to be a big thing this Saturday is, with tempo, you're going to have to focus when you're tired because they're going to keep coming. So with the quick passing game, I know that technique-wise, I'm gonna have to have good eyes. So knowing that they love throwing the ball quick, getting the quarterback easy access throws, I just gotta have good eyes and elite technique.
Real quick, a lot of stuff around the line of scrimmage, and then you got to be careful when they do a little stagger and go type thing too, right? Those are the things you got to look out for.
Right. So yeah, like Coach Addae always says, eyes, eyes, eyes. So this week a big emphasis is going to be eyes. Not falling for the tricks. Just staying on my keys. P's and Q's.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Hey, Nicktroy, you come into this week as a starter on the #1 total defense in the United States of America. Coaches have said it's really been about effort and it's been about confidence. And I'm just wondering, as a member of that defensive huddle, just how much confidence is there? What's it like to be a part of a unit that's playing that well?
Man, it's pretty dope. Knowing that you're a part of a defense that's ranked #1. And, not only is, like the front seven doing that thing, the secondary as well. So, my confidence is up. I know the guys too, all of us, our confidence is high. The biggest thing is staying grounded, not getting, not having a big head, what I'm saying? Just staying grounded, keep working week in and week out. Keep pushing, it's great. It's a blessing to be #1, so we just trying to do our best to stay there as #1. So, yeah, my confidence, the guys' confidence is up there, yeah, for sure.
To you, Cody.
Hey, Nicktroy, I wanted to ask about the first touchdown Kansas scored. Obviously, it started out as a good play for you, but I was just wondering, how do you bounce back mentally from something like that when – something goes right and then, goes as bad as it possibly could afterwards?
I was expecting that too. I was expecting somebody to ask me that. But, it's just, I went up for it. The focus wasn't on the ball, and I was just too excited to just, go up there and grab it. But, things happen. So how I, bounce back from it is, I just think of the next play. And, I've been through adversity before. That right there was just like, just bounce back. And I was able to do that and just stay on my P's and Q's. Coach Addae kept me in the game, and I was just good. I just, was like, next play, basically. As a DB, you got to have next play mentality. So I just looked at it as the next play, and then I just went out there and just finished out the game the way I know I could.
Back to you, Greg.
So, Nicktroy, sort of a multiple part question with your recruitment. You recruit, why West Virginia initially? You committed to one staff, kept your commitment to the next one. Did you have any second thoughts? And then how did Neal Brown talk you into committing a second time, I guess?
So first off, West Virginia, it's just the atmosphere caught my attention. The fans, how loyal they are, they're supportive. And, I did. I committed to one staff, Coach Belk and them, and then that's when, they ended up leaving. So at first I did have a second thought, I don't know. But, I always stayed true with it. Coach Brown came, met my mom and dad, and they loved him. And, I loved him too. And then Coach Addae, I talked to him too. So that's, another reason why I was I'm good with this decision. I'm going to just still stay, and it's working out perfectly fine for me.
Next will be Kevin.
Nicktroy, I wanted to ask you about your work on special teams. First of all, does it feel good to be out there, with all those safeties and linebackers representing the cornerbacks? And second, you're really physical. Seems like you're at the point of attack around the ball a lot. What makes you a good special teams player?
Yeah, special teams is key. I'm on the kickoff team, and that's where defense makes their mark. That's where what type of players you're getting when they step on the field. So me being on kickoff, you gotta have that mentality. You gotta have that dog mentality. You gotta be physical. So yeah, that definitely plays a role. Being on kickoff and then not jogging off the field and waiting to be rotated in now. So now it's just after kickoff, I stay on the field and wait for the first D to come out, and I gotta enact the same type of aggression I did on kickoff onto defense. So yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Nicktroy, I have another question about something that you probably figured to get asked about, but you had that quick back and forth with Bruce Irvin that you guys handled quickly and put to bed, and it seems pretty cool. Just curious about that. And also, you're from Georgia. He's from Georgia. I don't know if there's any type of connection that you had with him before that, if that gave you any insight into West Virginia, even if you identified him at all before Saturday, of course.
Nah, man, like when I seen it, because I didn't know. So when they told me, I was like, oh, okay, let's see what he said. So I seen it, and I just laughed. Like, I didn't take it serious. I didn't take it, I didn't take it negative or anything. I just laughed about it. So I quoted it, saying, like, joking, like, wow, like, I didn't even have bad games, stuff like that. And then I just kept it pushing, and, I woke up the next day, and he apologized, and I was like, appreciate it, I didn't even look at it that way, but I appreciate you apologizing. And I just kept it pushing. That's how it was. It wasn't nothing serious, and I know he's from Georgia. I know one of his somebody who coached him in high school was telling me about him, and I knew he was from Georgia. I found that out during the quarantine, So, yeah, it's all love. It ain't nothing serious for me. I keep it pushing. So
We'll go to Carly.
Nicktroy, your smile kind of tells it all, but I know it's been a tough couple of months for you with losing your mom. How have you kind of turned to football and your teammates to kind of keep that smile on your face and get you through this time?
My mom, she's the reason. One thing my mom always did, no matter how hard life was, she just kept living. She was living life. And she always, me growing up, she would always tell me, like, always smile. Don't ever have a grin on your face, none of that, always smile. So, like, now that I'm smiling, I'm just filled with joy every day. So dealing with that, actually helped me, even on the field, like about the catch that I was asked about earlier. That's cool, on to the next play. I've been through adversity, obviously with my mother, I've found more strength, after the whole thing, and like as the week goes by, week in and week out, and there's more strength that's being built. And, my mom's there with me. She's pushing me, and I think about her every day. So it just keeps me going, keeps me smiling, keeps me, spreading positive energy.
Last couple here. Go ahead, Cody.
So I asked you about a bad play last time, but now I'll ask you about a good play. What was the reaction to Darius's interception?
It's actually crazy because as I was running towards that direction and the ball was tipped up, I was wondering who's going to go get it. And then I seen Darius out of nowhere just go and, like, leave and get the ball. And, like, my first reaction was, there's no way. Like, there's no way. And then the review, I seen it, and I was like, yeah, he's a dog. That guy's a freak. A lot of people just think he could just rush. He could do a lot of things. I seen it practice. So I was like, yeah, that guy's a dog.
Go ahead, Greg.
So, Nicktroy, obviously you guys got a stretch here coming up that's, going to tell a whole lot about your season. I mean, it's just a general question. You guys ready, do you think, after 4 games, you sort of in a groove to where you're prepared for this stretch?
Personally, yeah. I think we're ready. I think, week in and week out, we've always, emphasized just getting better. The past is the past. We got a good win against Kansas. We celebrated that same day. Now we on to the next. So it's just all about improvement, really. Improving from every game. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like, yeah, for this last stretch, I know if we lock in and we stay in our P's and Q's, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like we're ready for what's to come.
Okay, Nicktroy, thank you very much.
No problem.
Tony.
Yep.
Our final player this afternoon is Tony Fields. Questions for Tony? Go ahead, John.
I'm just curious, what are some of the challenges coming into a program so quickly and having to adjust and learn to a new scheme, new players, playing off players? What are some of the things that you've had to do to get up to speed so quickly?
Well, the most important thing was to learn the playbook, learn the terminology, and Coach Coons really helped me a lot with that, as well as Coach Addae and Coach Leslie. And I also have to give a lot of credit to Josh Chandler, who's on the field with me. When I do need help, he helps me. But as of everything now, I understand everything and know our defense.
Go ahead, Cody.
Hey, Tony. I was just wondering if you could tell us what you think it's going to be like to play against Colin Schooler.
Yeah.
Because Coach Addae told us you guys were kind of like best friends at Arizona.
Yeah, that was my guy. That was my Mike linebacker at Arizona. So it's going to be pretty fun. I mean, anytime me and him faced off in practice at Arizona, it was always fun because we'll talk the most crap to each other. So, I mean, as soon as me and him see each other, it's up.
Okay, Don, you're next.
Hey, Tony, I'm from the newspaper down here in Lubbock. Just kind of following up on that. When did you and Colin, I guess, realize that you would be on opposite sidelines? Have y'all kind of circled the date on your calendars when you'd see each other again?
For sure. I mean, it was for me, for both of us. I know it's the same for him because he's a competitor as well. He circled the day on the calendar because he can't wait till the day he can beat me, but it's not gonna happen. I can't wait till the day I can beat him. We always compete with each other, whether it was football games and Madden or anything. So I can't wait.
Go ahead, Kevin.
So are you all communicating with each other this week, or have you kind of called a halt to that till after the game? And then after the game, I'm sure you all will seek each other out. It's totally about the game, or, we kind of try to catch up with other things.
Very minimal communication. I mean, I might call him the night before the game or so just to pump his head up a little bit, but I won't do too much communicating with him this week.
Go ahead, Greg.
Tony, I was just wondering about your position background, even going back to like high school, middle school. You look real comfortable in pass coverage. So were you always been a linebacker? Did you play other positions? What's helped you with pass coverage?
I've played every position on defense except the defensive line, and on offense, I played every position on offense except quarterback and offensive line. So I've played the whole football field, so I feel like that is what really helps me understand the game and understand what routes are coming to me in pass coverage.
Back to you, Don.
Hey, Tony, last year when you guys played Texas Tech, you had the tackle on Alan Bowman. Alan went down, cracked his collarbone, wound up not playing the rest of the season. Now, last week he was demoted to second string, so he won't be the starting quarterback on Saturday. But in the aftermath of that play, did you have any communication with Texas Tech or with Allen, or would you feel any reason to seek him out on Saturday to say, hey, no hard feelings or anything like that?
No, for sure. You never want to see anybody get hurt playing this game. I mean, it's a very dangerous game, and throughout the football season, it's a lot of injuries, a lot of bumps and bruises people go through, and seeing him go through that injury, which was a season injury, was very sad. I mean, I wouldn't want to end my season on an injury. So, I mean, seeing anybody else go through it, you always cringe as another football player.
Back to you, Greg.
Tony, you've talked a little bit about this in the past, but moving from Will linebacker at Arizona to Mike at West Virginia, again, how difficult is that move? What's Mike like, and is the Mike different at WVU and what this defense is doing compared to, a 3-4 or traditional 4-3, something like that?
It's not really so much different playing Mike than Will. It's just a little bit more high-low game rather than quick game at Will linebacker. So it's just getting used to, like I said, the route concepts that come from the field side rather than the boundary side. That's really about it.
Keep going, Don.
Tony, I believe you went into the transfer portal before Colin did. What was your recruitment like this past spring and summer? And how did you wind up picking WVU?
My recruitment was pretty wild. I mean, I'll be honest, but when I got the WVU offer from the beginning, they were the school that caught my eye and I really wanted to go to from the beginning because I had prior relationships, like I've said before, with people here, and I felt the most comfortable, and it just was an easy transition for me.
Any final questions for Tony? Go ahead, Greg. Greg,
There we go. Tony, you talked a little bit about this before as well. The difference between Arizona, Las Vegas, and West Virginia. Have you gotten time to actually get out and enjoy mountains, woods, any of that type of thing?
Not necessarily. I mean, from what I see when I drive around, I see some stuff, but as far as the weather, when I get out of practice, it's raining sometimes or it's too cold sometimes, so I'd rather sit in the house. But as soon as I get a day where I can come in during the day and go explore everything and it's not too dark, I can't wait.
Don, back to you.